Look at that. Hi, my name is Danielle Snyder. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm excited to present to you about how to move past your comfort zone on behalf of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. So, I like to start these presentations in a similar way, and that is by asking you guys to take a moment to clear the clutter. And essentially, what that means is I want you to, if you can, turn off your phones, put them on silence, get out of your email, and shut down anything that is going to distract you or take away from this moment. So, hopefully, we can help you be as present as possible as I take you through this meditation. Give you a second to do that. Okay. Once you've done that, I'm going to have you take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Another deep breath in through your nose, exhale through your mouth. I want you to become aware of your body, let it relax and soften. You can shut your eyes if you feel comfortable, or you can keep them open. Breathe deeply into your belly. Your body is beginning to settle. If you become uncomfortable, you can adjust your posture. Breathing deeply, bring your awareness to your body. Remind yourself of its inherent awareness, ease, and vitality. Invite yourself to relax into these elements. Let your body open and feel safe. Bring your attention to the top of your head. Breathe into it. As you breathe in, let your temples feel open and soften. Bring awareness to your ears and the muscles in and around your face. Breathe in. Imagine the air you are inhaling is full of energy. Breathe out gratitude. Allow your awareness to turn to your shoulders. Breathe into your shoulders. Let the tension melt away and relax them. On your in breath, give your shoulders space. On your out breath, drop your shoulders even farther. Allow your awareness to travel to your spine. Breathe into your spine, letting it stretch. As you exhale, feel the aliveness of your spine and appreciate the strength. Now let's breathe into your heart. Be aware of the tightness. Feel your heart open as it trusts your attention and your breath. As you breathe in, appreciate your heart. Breathing out, feel your gratitude for your good heart. Let's bring your awareness down through the stomach into the knees, breathing that breath through the knees, feeling grateful for your knees. Breathe in healing to your knees. Breathe out any tension and pain in your knees. The last thing we're going to travel to is our feet. On your out breath, be aware of the tension. Imagine on your in breath that you are breathing all the way through your body into your feet. Your mind touches your feet. On your out breath, you appreciate your feet. Slowly, gently, and smoothing, bring your awareness from your feet to your legs, to your pelvic area, to your stomach, to your chest, to your heart and lungs, your shoulders, your arms, to your neck, to your face, to the top of your head. Breathe in and out smoothly as your awareness travels up your body. When you reach the top of your head, return your awareness to your breath. Then let it gently spread to your whole body. Take a few minutes to relax with an open mind. And before you open your eyes, send all of the well-being that you've experienced to others on your breath. When you are ready, you may rejoin the session. Okay. One of the main reasons I would like to start sessions with a meditation is a lot of what we experience in society takes us away from living in our body and trusting ourselves. We're busy, we're distracted. It is so easy, honestly, to go through your whole day without stopping and breathing. And so when we're about to talk about fear and moving past comfort zone, really getting connected to your body and understanding what it is and the capacity that you have within yourself is really important. So for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about moving past your comfort zone. And I'm going to be asking and sharing a lot of questions. And I want you to take time to ask the questions in your head and see what comes up for you. Attempt to be curious rather than judgmental. Judgmental often stops us from growing, whereas curiosity involves the right brain and it allows us to move through different emotions. If at any point you have any questions at all, feel free to drop them into the chat and I will answer them when I get time. Okay, so the first thing when we're talking about comfort zone, it's important to think about what fear is. Where do you feel in your body? How often do you experience fear? We are all afraid of something, whether it's thunderstorms, dentists, no offense to any dentist, a stranger at the door, death. Fear is a normal reaction that our bodies have to help try to keep us safe. Anxiety is a type of fear that starts to think about what may happen rather than something that is actually happening now. When fear and anxiety become a pattern in people's life, that is when they become a problem. So an example is like if you plugged the drain in your kitchen and you ignored it, what would happen? It would become a problem. What generally happens with fear and anxiety is we avoid looking at or understanding or feeling those emotions. So we push it away rather than deal with it, which makes that thing even scarier and even bigger. So the first thing when we start to push past that comfort zone is thinking about what the fear is. This is probably one of the most challenging steps that there is because you have to be honest with yourself and really accept that that's the thing that is causing you fear. You can't overcome a fear that is hidden in your subconscious. You have to face it. When you turn your face toward a person, you see that person and you learn what they look like and how they're acting. So when you turn towards your fear rather than away from it, you notice things about the fear that you didn't know before. Awareness and acknowledgement is the key to overcoming. So when I'm working with individual clients who are ready to move past their comfort zone, I like to ask them to start to keep a journal. And in that journal, generally it's like 2 to 3 weeks, start to record any patterns that you notice and really be curious. So what body sensations do you experience when you're noticing you're anxious or fearful? What do you do if a fear arises? Writing down helps increase awareness, and also then the fears become less big. In our brains, the less we acknowledge it, I don't know why I said in our brains, but okay, in life, the less we acknowledge our fears, oftentimes the bigger and the scarier they become. There's this, I think it's an Elmo book. It's a kid's book, but it is essentially about anxiety, and the kid starts by being afraid of like the closet. And then the fear gets bigger, and then he doesn't want to walk down the hallway. And then it gets bigger, and he doesn't want to go upstairs. And he just avoids it completely. Eventually, after lots of practice, he goes and he opens the closet, and what he thought was a monster was actually a teddy bear. And that happens a lot of times with fears. We work it up so big in our head that we avoid it, and it becomes harder and harder. I saw this a lot post the acuteness of the pandemic, where people were not doing and practicing things that push them out of the comfort zone. And so it became even harder to restart. So a lot of this is practice and challenging the fears by little steps. Now, if you were afraid of the high, so I kind of look at fears like this. Jumping off the high diving board is your big fear. I'm not going to say, go jump off the highest diving board. That would set you up for failure. What do you think would happen if you're afraid of heights and I tell you to go jump off the highest level? Well, most people would maybe climb up it and then climb down. And then they would feel really crappy about not being able to succeed. But that is not setting your brain or body up for success. We have to build confidence step by step in order to make you feel comfortable. So when you do get to the high diving board, you're ready for it. So, and kind of theoretically, what we do when we're starting to challenge fears is we start really small. So I would first have you start by playing in the pool, then sitting off the edge of the pool, jumping in, getting on the next level of the diving board, which is not the highest, but just barely higher, putting your feet in, then jumping in. And we would build mastery. And what mastery is, making it so it becomes habitual and comfortable, and you can do it. And you would keep doing those steps until you got to the scariest point, but you could look back and be like, here are all the opportunities that I have succeeded and things went okay. I know I can do this. So the next step is thinking about your imagination and how you can incorporate it into challenging fears. Imagination, which we often underutilize as adults, gives us power, creativity, and the ability to think outside of the box. It can become a challenge if you are using your imagination to think about only how negative things can happen. Imagination can magnify your fears. So, what I want you to practice as you start to understand and better acknowledge your fears is pick a calm moment when you are relaxed. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in a situation that normally causes fear. The goal of the visualization or the imagination is practicing how you want it to go. So you're handling that situation calmly, and it is turning out the way you want it to, rather than what you have experienced in the past or what you're afraid of. And so the goal becomes you can visualize that success. And actually, we had a question in the chat room, which says, what are, if your fears are tangible and more like fear of failing, or letting someone down? And that's a really good question, because actually imagination is one of those ways that we can start to challenge it. And the way you can do that is you can challenge letting someone down and seeing that it doesn't turn out as badly as you think it is in your visualization. Or you can also challenge it not turning out the way that you thought it would if you did let someone down. Like, it could be okay. At the end of the day, we are not responsible for other people's emotions. We are only responsible for how we show up. And if people expectations are impossible to meet, or just aren't, or maybe we can meet them, but we just can't on that day, that is about them and not you. And one of my favorite sayings is, yours, not mine. It isn't possible to always show up and be the person that other people need. So you acknowledge it and you share and talk to them about it. Same with failing. You acknowledge that it's scary to fail, and it's a part of it. It's a part of living. We will all fail. And it's less about the act of failing, the act about letting someone down. And it's more about, how do you come back from it? How do you amend the challenge or show up differently if it's something you can change? And if it's not, how can you release that it is theirs, not yours? So another tool when starting to push your comfort zone is starting to rank your fears and anxiety. So it's similar to like people asking about pain. 1 to 10, 10 being the most anxious you could be, 1 being not anxious at all. After you think about it, and if like, the fear of letting someone down, scale of 1 to 10, maybe that's a 6 on my fear scale. Then you stop and analyze it. You can work on lowering it rather than expecting it to go away. Because again, we want to take small steps in order to make progress. And fear is information. It's not necessarily a bad thing unless it becomes debilitating. So you may be like saying, Danielle, well, how do we lower our fears from a 7 to a 4? And one of the most crucial things I can teach you is your breath. Anxiety generally starts with short breaths. That short, shallow breath causes a physiological response in your body that is going to increase your anxiety. So it's kind of a cycle. You get anxious, your breath gets shallow, that triggers your body to put you into flight, fight, or freeze. Your pulse quickens, you get panicky, your head hurts, et cetera, et cetera. Deep breathing is not complicated. It is so underutilized, and it's something that we all have access to. Doesn't cost anything, and we can practice anytime. It's great. And I think a lot of times, like when we think about answers, we want something more, not complicated, but like fancy in a way than breath. But breath is so important. I cannot emphasize how much it can help you enough. So the key to managing anxiety is learning how to breathe. I know this may seem silly. You're like, we have to breathe to live, but deep breathing actually forces your body to physically calm down. One of my favorite deep breath exercises is called 4-7-8. And it is lovingly coined a hug to your central nervous system. So the goal is always to breathe. The inhalation should always be shorter than the exhalation, which cues the body to calm. So I'm going to have you guys do 1 round with me, and then I'm going to have you do 2 rounds alone. And ideally, you could practice this a couple times a day. And the more it becomes attuned and comfortable for you, the less of a challenge it is going to be to incorporate when you are feeling anxious or nervous. So I want you to take a deep breath in. Sorry. My dogs need to practice their breath work too. Take a deep breath in through your nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want to have you go ahead and do 2 of those cycles alone. And if the exhalation becomes challenging, so you can't exhale for 8, that is okay. Just make sure it is longer than your inhalation. Okay, great. Yes. So breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and then exhale for 8. I'm going to type it in the chat so you guys can also write it down if you want to practice this outside of session. Okay. All right. So that is a skill you can practice anytime. And hopefully you are feeling a little bit calmer in your body. The next skill that I like to really encourage people is mindfulness. That is very much connected to breath work, but also what we started with, which is helping you become more attuned with your body. So as you learned in step 1, awareness helps you acknowledge the fear. Mindfulness and being aware of what is happening in your body helps you recognize when it is starting and how to quickly identify it and practice the breath rather than being surprised by it. So mindfulness is learning how to sit in your body and feel things rather than what I talked about in the beginning, which we are often separated from feelings. So being mindful could be practicing breathing. Being mindful could be taking a few down moments throughout the day and just sitting without distractions. Being mindful could be doing a meditation, like how I started this session with you. Mindfulness connects your mind, body, and soul. The more that we can connect and inner work our mind, body, and soul, the faster we're aware if something is activating our brains. I have a question in the chat is, how many times do you recommend the breath work, which is also part of mindfulness, per anxious moment? And the general rule of thumb is go through 3 cycles. So breathing in for 4, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8. If you do not feel better after the 3 cycles, you could do a 4th. A lot of times what is happening with anxiety as fear is our brains are quick to go to negative. And so one of the things that a tool or one of the other tools you can start to use is thinking about a different possible outcome. So I want you to take a moment and imagine what your future would look like if nothing changed. You can reflect on the consequences of not following your dreams and the cost of status quo in all areas of your life. What are the downsides of not challenging the fears? A lot of times what can happen is being trapped becomes a bigger fear than something not going right. What if challenging that fear helps you overcome and get what you've been trying to or achieve? So when our brains go straight to that place of what's the worst case scenario, I want you to tell yourself what's the best case scenario. And then surrounding yourself with people who believe in you and support you and want to help you overcome this. We have to do it step by step. It is really common to get discouraged when it doesn't change immediately. But if we think about what we like, how fears become bigger and bigger over time, we also have to acknowledge that it's going to take time to rewrite that story in our brains and to challenge that. So rather than going from 0 to 100, we have to appreciate each step along the way. And if we go 0 to 5, that's huge. Let's celebrate. So kind of going back to one of the questions in the chat, it is unrealistic if we think we're not going to be afraid of letting people down. It's okay. It's okay to fear that. And we go into steps. So we start to acknowledge it's okay to fear it. Maybe we try to say no to someone we really trust and see how it goes. And then we try to say no to someone a little bit more neutral. And then we can say no to someone at work. And so we're progressing if our fear was letting someone down and starting in a safer situation rather than starting at the biggest possible situation. The best way to move through fear is to move through it. The more you start to take actions towards your goals, the more confidence you will, the more you will build confidence and the more comfortable you will become. If you break your objectives down into realistic, measurable milestones, that will help you measure your progress, and you can acknowledge, even though it may not feel as big or as life-changing as you want, you are still taking steps forward. And any progress is progress. It has taken us a while to get to this point. It is going to take us a while to move forward. So I want you to start by acknowledging what your fears are, writing down where it shows up in your body, making a goal, making really specific steps for that goals, and practicing that mindfulness and breath work. That I have another question in the chat. Can we apply some of this techniques for anxiety as well? Yes, Mert. Oh, yes. That is a great idea. This is universal. Fear, anxiety, these are great tips. I mean, even something you're excited about, sometimes that can present very similarly. So the more you practice, the more it will also be universal and help you in all areas of your life. Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you all so much for joining me today. This has been fun. I love talking and helping people think about what good things can happen from challenging their fears. I hope you have a great Wednesday and hopefully we will talk soon.